Welcome to this third tutorial in our tutorial series for Eliot AI. In this tutorial we will continue on from our previous boss battle, and create a battle arena style demo also known as a MOBA. We will be learning how to create minions, waypoints, non-moving AI, such as towers and bases, and even how to create player AI which you can control. This is a very powerful tutorial showing the more advanced usages of Eliot AI. Let's begin. Start off by creating a new scene from our last boss battle tutorial, and save this scene in the scenes folder. Name it MOBA tutorial. Now in the hierarchy window, right-click and create a new empty object and call it level, and reset its coordinates. Next right-click on the level object and create a new 3D object, plane. After that reset the plane and then rename it to ground. Now let's change the material to Eliot AI grid, inside of the mesh renderer. Next let's rescale this object to 10, 1, and 10. Once this is done, create a new empty game object, under the level object, and call it bases. Next right-click on this object and create a new 3D object, cube. Rename the cube to red base. After that scale the cube to 3x3x3. Then move it up to 1.5 units in the Y direction. Now we must move the red base to one corner of the game board. Once that's done, let's go ahead and add a new component, and select Eliot Agent. Set the team to red, then open up attributes and click on the plus button to add the MOBA example attributes. Next name the type, base, in the text box. Now let's go down and set up the behavior. Choose the behavior, MOBA base Eliot AI. Next add a skill by clicking on the skill option and then select MOBA base heal. Now select the advanced mode button and remove the resources section. Click on the add agent component button and add a fresh copy of agent resources. Next expand the resources section and hit the plus button. Select default resources and then open up source one. Change the max value to 100 and then set the initial value slider to 100 as well. After that expand the events section and then select the on empty section and hit the plus button. Now click and drag the red base object in and then from the drop down select agent death handler and then the die function. Next remove the death handler component and add a new agent death handler. Now expand the death handler section and then set the death delay to 0. After this remove the animation, motion and perception components. Next remove the Navmesh agent component by selecting Remove Component. Now click on the red base and duplicate the object. Rename this object to blue base. Set the blue base object team to blue and then set its position to +45 in the X, and +45 in the Z. After that, select the red base object and select the mesh renderer and change the material to Eliot AI red. Repeat this again for the blue base and this time use Eliot AI blue. Now zoom out of the view so we can begin planning to place our towers. Right-click on the level object and create a new empty object under it. Name this object Towers, and then create two empty objects underneath, one for blue towers, and one for red towers. Under blue towers, right-click and create a new cube and rename it to Tower. Now set its mesh renderer material to Eliot AI blue. And let's resize our tower to 1, 6, and 1. Position this object to 3 units in the Y direction. Now add a new Eliot agent component and remove the Navmesh component from this object. Next, click on the Advanced Mode button and let's remove the animation and motion components. Now let's set the team to blue and expand the attributes section and add a new attributes by hitting the plus button. Select the MOBA example attributes and then keep the type name as Tower. Let's scroll down and set the behavior to MOBA Tower Eliot AI. After that, remove the perception component and click on Add Agent component and add a new agent perception. Expand this and set the field of view to 360 degrees and then click on the Adjust Origin button and move the origin down to just above the ground level. Now go back and hit the Adjust Origin button again to turn it off and then remove the Resources component. Click on the Add Agent component button and add a new Agent Resources component. Expand this and click on the plus button and then select Default Resources. Now click on Source 1 and then expand the Events section and go down to the onEmpty function and then click on the plus button. Click and drag the tower in and then from the drop down select Agent Death Handler, and then the Die function. Next, go ahead and remove the Death Handler component and click on the Add Agent component button and select Agent Death Handler. Expand this and set the death delay to 0. Now let's add a skill. Go and choose a skill and add MOBA Base Heal as the first skill. After this, let's add a second skill. Go and choose MOBA Tower Fire. Now we need to adjust where this skill will be projected from. Go ahead and click on the Adjust Skill Origin button. Let's move the skill origin to the top of the tower. Once done, click on the Adjust Skill Origin button again to stop adjusting the origin. Next, go ahead and duplicate all the towers for blue and make 9 towers and position them along 3 distinct paths as you would see in usual MOBA games. Now select all the towers and duplicate them and put them into the red towers object. Set the team of these towers to the red team. Now select the mesh renderer and change the material to Eliot AI red. Select the red towers object and change the rotation to 180 degrees in the y-axis. Make any final required adjustments before we move on to the next step. Now right-click and create a new empty object for paths. Right-click again and make two sub-objects, one for blue paths and one for red paths. Now select Tools and then Eliot AI, Create, and then select Waypoints Group. Click and drag this new object into the blue paths object. Reset this object and then rename this object to mid-path. Hit the Project on Plane button and then click on the Place Waypoints button. Place a waypoint from the blue base to just outside of the red base, and then click on the Place Waypoints button again. Duplicate mid-path and rename it to top path. Now click on the Clear Waypoints button. After that, click on the Place Waypoints button. Next, starting from the blue base, make a triangular path using 3 points in total, ending at the red base. And by clicking on the Place Waypoints button again. Now open the top path and go to the last waypoint. Select the Override Next Waypoints button, and then set the size to 0. After that, duplicate the top path and rename it to bottom path. Click on the Clear Waypoints button and then click on the Place Waypoints button. Place 3 points again in a bottom triangle pattern starting from the blue base and ending again at the red base, and then after that click on the Place Waypoints button again to end placing waypoints. Now go to the last waypoint in the bottom path and once again select the Override Next Waypoints button, and then set the size to 0. Next, select all 3 paths and then expand the colors section. Select a blue color for all of these paths as the waypoint color. Make the other 2 colors transparent so they cannot be seen. You will notice that the circles, also known as the action distances, are a bit small. Let's increase their size to 2 units. Now select all 3 paths and duplicate them and copy them over to the red path. Select the red path object and rotate this object 180 degrees in the y-axis. Select all of these paths again and this time change the color of the waypoints to red. We are now ready to create our minions. Begin by going to Eliot AI, Resources, and then Base Prefabs, and then click and drag the Eliot AI Base Agent prefab onto the game board. Now right-click on the prefab and then select the Unpack Prefab Completely option. Next, navigate to the 3D Game Kit folder and then go into the Characters section and get the Chomper prefab, and then drag it into the Graphics object in the Eliot Agent. Let's now work on the Chomper animator. Select the Eliot AI Base Animator and then duplicate it and rename it to Minion. Click and drag it back into the Chomper animator and make sure that the Apply Root Motion checkbox is unchecked. At this point, go through all of the animations and replace them with Chomper's equivalent animations. Once that is done, select the agent and then add a new attribute by hitting the plus button under Attributes and a dint in the MOBA example attributes. Rename the type to Minion and then go down and change the behavior to MOBA Minion Eliot AI. After that, go down and select the skill, MOBA Minion Melee Attack. Next, select the Align Graphics Position button. Now select the Advanced Mode button and then remove the Resources component. Click on the Add Agent Component button, and then select the Agent Resources option. Expand the Resources component and then hit the plus button and add default resources. After that, select Source 1 and then expand the Events section and go down to the onEmpty function. Hit the plus button and then click and drag the agent object in. And from the drop-down, select Agent Death Handler, and then the Die function. Now remove the Death Handler component and then click on the Add Agent Component button, and then select the Agent Death Handler option. Once that's done, expand the Death Handler and set the death delay to 0. Next, let's create a new folder under Projects and name it Prefabs. Now rename the agent to Minion Red and then click and drag it into the project view to make a prefab. After that, select the agent again in the hierarchy and then right-click and select Unpack Prefab completely. Rename the agent to Minion Blue and then select the Chomper body and go into the Mesh renderer. Change the main material to Chomper body matte blue. Now click and drag this agent object into the project view to create a prefab out of it. Next, let's delete this object by right-clicking on the agent object and selecting Delete. After this, select the level object and right-click and create a new empty object and call it Spawners. Underneath this object, create two new empty game objects, one for blue spawners and one for red spawners. Now select Tools, Eliot AI, Create, and then select Waypoints Group. Click and drag this new object into the blue spawners object and rename it Midpath Spawner. Select the Project on Plane button, and then move this to the blue base. We want to create a spawning zone for our minions to spawn from, and so let's go ahead and now click on the Place Waypoints button, and start placing points in a circle formation to make a spawn zone. Once that's done, click on the Place Waypoints button again. Now select the Pool Agents checkbox, and then expand the Pooled Agents Prefab section, and change the size to 1 and click and drag the Minion Blue Prefab into the box. Next, set the max agents number to 5 and then the agents pool cooldown seconds to 2 seconds. After that, change the waypoint color to blue and then select the Add New Component button, and search for the Path Assigner script and add it. Now click and drag the midpath from the blue path section into the script box and then set the team to blue. Duplicate this object and call it top path spawner, and then move it to the starting of the top path. Click and drag the top path from the blue path section into the path assigner script. Duplicate this object again and then rename it to bottom path spawner and move this spawner to the starting of the bottom path. Click and drag the bottom path from the blue path section into the path assigner script. Now select all path spawners and duplicate them and drag them into the red spawners object. Select the red spawners object and then rotate it by 180 degrees in the Y. Move the camera over so you can see the paths on the red side and then select all the spawner objects and then change the waypoint color to red. Next drag in all red paths into the mid path, top path, and bottom path spawners and then set the team to red. After that select all spawners and now let's click and drag the minion red prefab into element 0 for the pooled agents prefabs. We are now ready to create our main heroes. There will be two types of heroes, one controlled by the player with both AI and human interaction, and another hero controlled by the computer using only AI. Right-click on the level object and create a new empty object and rename it to heroes. Next right-click on the heroes object and create the empty objects for blue and red heroes. Now go to Eliot AI, Resources, Base Prefabs, and then move the camera to the blue base and click and drag in the Eliot AI MOBA player prefab. At this point we must disable the main camera as the Eliot agent that we just added already has one. Next right-click on the Eliot AI agent and select the Unpack Prefab Completely option. We now want to go and get the Ellen prefab and click and drag it into the graphics object in the Eliot AI MOBA agent, in the hierarchy. Scale the Ellen model down to 0.5 in all axes and then let's set up her animation controller. We can reuse the animation controller for Ellen from our previous boss battle tutorial, so go ahead and do that at this point. Now uncheck the Apply Root Motion option, and then select the agent and set its name to Hero Blue. Next let's go down and expand the animation component and then select the Align Graphics Position button. At this point we want to go up and add a skill. Move up to the Skills section and add TPS Player Shoot. After this select the Hero Blue Agent object and drag it into the Blue Hero Parent object. Now duplicate this object and drag it into the Red Parent object and rename it to Hero Red. Change the team to red. Since this is an AI we do not control, we will start off by removing its camera by right-clicking the camera and deleting it. After that we will zoom out and reposition the red hero on the other side of the board. Now select the red hero agent and open up the attributes section. Click and drag in the red base into the home base box and blue base into the enemy base box. Close the attributes section and go down to the behaviors section and let's change the behavior to MOBA Hero Eliot AI. Next, let's select the blue hero agent and let's set the camera distance to 4, so we get a closer view of the action. After that, let's set the red base by expanding its resources section and then going to the event section. Click and drag in the red base object into the box, and then from the drop-down select Agent Death Handler, then the die function. Select the blue base and expand the resources section. Click on Source 1 and then expand the Events section and go to the On Empty Function section and click and drag the blue base into the box. After that, click on the drop-down and select Agent Death Handler, then the die function. Finally, we need to bake the Navmesh. To do this, select the ground and all of the tower objects and set them to static and hit the Yes Change Children button. Next, click on Window, AI, then Navigation. Now hit the Bake tab and select the Bake button. We are now ready to test our creation. Go ahead and hit the play button, and you can now move your player using your mouse, where right click moves your player and shift allows your player to run. Congratulations, you have completed the Eliot AI MOBA tutorial. There are many more things that can be done with Eliot AI, and you have just scratched the surface of what you can do. Join our mailing list today to stay up to date on the latest news and information regarding Eliot AI by visiting our website today.
Get your copy of Eliot AI today on the Unity Assets Store.